Hello, and welcome back to the Reactivist Podcast. I'm Marlene Shivo. Well, it has been a week for sure. Everything in the news wheel is about the protesters. It's all about the campuses and the kids and the crazy. It's just nothing but crazy. And the fact that Donald Trump is in court every day in New York City, and the details of what goes on in that courtroom are almost muted by the fact that college campuses are in an uproar. The lunatic kids, the kids that are off the rails, are running the asylum. They're taking over buildings. I'm sure you saw at Columbia University, they're making quote unquote demands about wanting food and water, saying it's their humanitarian right. What about the rights of everybody else? It's their humanitarian right to drink. Well, guess what? You took over a building voluntarily. No one's holding you hostage. So if you would like to eat or drink something, leave the building. No one's making you stay there but you. That was one of the dumbest press conferences I had seen in a long time. I have lost so many brain cells listening to these idiots at Ivy League universities and very, very elite colleges doing the dumbest stuff I have ever seen. I am so glad my kids are not college aged at this point. Saving for college is not stressing me out at the moment. I wouldn't want to pay $1 for my kids to go to any of these schools right now. And it's not just the protests. Even before this, the progressive ideals that they're implementing on all of these college campuses, it's all political. Why are we politicizing college campuses? It's a place for education. This is not City Hall. When I was in college, we did marches. You know, we're talking about the 90s. We're talking about the Take Back the Night march, right? Women unite, take back the night, right? That's all we did. Bunch of girls and few guys walking around campus chanting that phrase and then going back to their dorms. There's no reporters, there are no press conferences, just a bunch of college kids going through their post-adolescent idealistic phase. It was so benign. There was a population of students on every college campus that, wore Birkenstocks and hemp jewelry, and girls stopped shaving their legs. They went to fish shows, right? Those were the rebels of the 90s. These were harmless styles and trends, and these were harmless phases, right? What's going on now in college campuses is not harmless at all. And it's getting so much attention in the media, and there's violence, and there's real social implications happening here. I don't really want to dive into the politics of what they're doing. I don't want to give any more oxygen to what these kids are doing. But it brings me to a topic of cancel culture and CNN anchor Michael Smerconish, who was set to give the commencement speech at Dickinson College in Pennsylvania and was canceled. Why was he canceled? Because these same students, these same lunatics running the asylum, decided that he was not good enough. There was a outcry to not have Michael Smerconish be the speaker, because in 2004, he wrote a book called Flying Blind. It was a book written 3 years after the 9/11 attacks. It turns out he wrote about how the TSA should be paying attention to people who looked like Arab Americans, because they looked like the same people who flew and crashed these planes on 9/11. So because he wrote this book 20 years ago and talked about his experience at the TSA in conjunction with what the TSA should be doing, he was no longer welcome to speak at Dickinson College. Whether or not you agree with what the college did, there's a much deeper and larger message going on here. If you don't fall directly in line with someone on the far left, the woke, their extreme views, you are abolished. That's it. Get rid of it. You got to go. The disruptors are calling the shots. College students and the universities are bowing to the demands. I know it's a safety issue. You don't want to cause more problems, but that's crazy. That's a bully culture. You get a bunch of students saying, we don't want Michael Smerconish, and the university says, okay, once again, you win. We're just going to do what you say because it's the easier route to go. It's the easier thing to do. Let's bow to the bullies. This is where I hope karma really comes in. When these kids are out in the workforce, I mean like a real workforce. I don't mean like going on Instagram to be a influencer. And someone does a background check on them. I hope they get canceled from being considered for that job. Michael Smerconish is very unique in that he doesn't actually follow any particular narrative. He breaks down the facts and both sides. If you've ever listened to him, if you ever watched his show on Saturday, and if you've ever listened to him on Sirius XM, he's a very level-headed, sort of down the middle guy who looks at both sides and reports and interviews, and he has some opinions. We're so upside down. And the things that get canceled versus the things that don't get canceled never cease to amaze me. I don't know if you remember a few years back when Gwyneth Paltrow came out with a candle that apparently was the scent of the candle was modeled after her, quote, vagina, her words. You can look it up. That's where we are as a society, right? We have vagina candles. We have a trend that came out last year that's making the rounds on social media. It's a fashion trend called pea stain jeans. The original price was $800 for these jeans, and now the jeans are $600. Pea stain jeans. Now it's not actual pea. I mean, not that I'm aware of. It looks like you wet your pants, and they are dubbed pea stain jeans. And someone's making money off of this, right? So we have an anchor, Michael Smerconish, who is a level-headed, educated man who has written more than one book, who has been told he is not worthy of giving a commencement speech because kids on the campus who have no idea what the hell they're talking about, they have no idea what the hell they stand for, decided he wasn't good enough. But pea stain jeans, all the rage. Vagina candles, of course. I don't have a word for what I'm even talking about anymore. I can't even say it's incredible, it's amazing, it's unbelievable. Nothing describes where we are right now as a society. Nothing. But in terms of words and what they mean, I'd like to switch gears and talk about AOC, another genius. She was talking about the border. She said it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis. It's a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. And she added that using the word surge to talk about what's going on at the border has overtones of white supremacy. She thinks the word surge shouldn't be used at all when talking about the surge of migrants that are crossing the border on a daily basis. So now we have to cancel the word surge in the context of the surge that is crossing our border every day, because AOC said so. I guess we could call it a parade. It is a surge. It is a surge of human beings crossing the border. There's no need to cancel the word. And you want to talk about white supremacy, AOC? Why don't you get yourself over to one of the campuses where there is a surge of white supremacy? How come you're not talking about that, AOC? That's the real deal. You have students that are disrupting everyday life and resources and education. They're anti-Israel, which means they're anti-Jews. That has overtones of, wait for it, white supremacy. Not the word surge. And whether you call what's going on at the border a crisis or a parade or a march, an event, it's still a problem. Crisis is a synonym of the word problem, AOC. So taking the word crisis out of what's going on at the southern border and taking the word surge out of describing what's going on at the southern border doesn't move the needle. And the climate crisis, what? What are you even talking about? I'm not debating the climate crisis. But why are we talking about the climate crisis when talking about migrants? You want to talk about the new Green Deal? Do it in a different Instagram post, AOC. Don't merge it with the migrant issue that's going on right now at the border. Although merge rhymes with surge, so should we cancel that too? Can we say there's a surge of rising temperatures? One having absolutely nothing to do with the migrants crossing the border, but, you know, I'm just figuring why we're on the topic. The extremists in this country are taking over in every sense of the word. They're taking over in Congress. They are taking over on the other side in the Supreme Court. They are taking over, at this point, college campuses. They are taking over the media, the messaging, and they're taking over my brain cells. If I lost as many calories as I do brain cells listening to these yahoos yammer on about nonsense, I would be emaciated right now. Has overtones of, wait for it, white supremacy.